Rosalyn, you worthless, pathetic excuse of a child. I can't believe you came from my womb. Why can't you do anything right? I told you, better make sure dinner is ready by the time I take my bath and get back down the stairs.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Rosalyn Parker. I'm a werewolf and the mother of a beautiful, amazing 17-year-old boy. My life was never the best. Who am I kidding? It was horrible. My mother abused me verbally and my brother and father acted like I didn't exist. I always wondered why my mother hated me. Since the day I was born, she always treated me like an outsider, to the point where I thought I was adopted and she was tired of taking care of someone else's child. That would explain why she treated me that way, but my theory was tested and proven wrong and I was left wondering. However, I decided to never let my son feel the way my mom made me feel when I was younger. I was pulled from my thoughts by a kiss on the cheek from my most precious possession in the world, my son. "Buongiorno, mama." "Good morning, mom," said my son Alesandro after kissing me on the cheek. "Good morning, my baby boy," I replied with a smile. "Mom, I'm not a baby anymore, you know. Can't you find another nickname for me? I'm 17 years old," he whined. I laughed as he scrunched up his nose at the name I called him. "Well," I drawled out, "no matter how old you get, you'll always be mi bambino piccolo, my baby boy." "Fine, mom, you win, but just so you know you're only allowed to call me that within these walls. Whatever you say, mi bambino. Now goes grab your coat and meet me by the car. We're having breakfast with the Alpha and the Luna Plus. I have to clean out the storage room for the new arrivals before opening up the cafe." Alexandro and Luna Gabriella, they have been like my second parents since I arrived in Italy 17 years ago. I ran into them after my first week here. I was out of money and hadn't eaten in a day. They were kind enough to buy me something to eat. That was when I told them everything that happened, from my mom verbally abusing me to my mate rejecting me and then finding out I was pregnant. After much convincing, they brought me back to the pack house and I officially became a member of the Blood Moon Pack. Everyone in the pack has been nothing but accepting me, and they were gentle towards me since I arrived and also towards Alesandro as well. However, even though we will always have a home at the pack house, I couldn't live there. I wanted to be able to fend for myself, so a year after Alesandro was born, I moved into our current home not too far from the pack and got a job, where I saved money until I was able to open my cafe. Now it's a buzzing business and the local spot for members of the pack, as well as humans and some other supernaturals. I snapped out of my thoughts when I realized Alesandro was yelling at me, telling me they have arrived. The Alpha and Luna were outside waiting for us to open up the cafe, so we could have breakfast. Breakfast time went by very quickly as the Alpha and Luna were in a hurry. They had stopped by to give us the exciting news that they were having a child and wanted us to come by the pack house for the celebration. After they left, Alesandro went to school, then I cleared out the storage room and got the cafe ready for the busy day ahead. Today was an extremely busy day, even more than expected, and after closing time, all I could think about was having a nice hot bath and laying down in my soft fluffy bed to rest. As I opened the door to my 3-bedroom apartment, I heard the phone buzzing. I saw I had a missed call from my brother and decided to call him back before taking my bath. Alesandro was up in his room, so I told him to heat the leftovers in the fridge if he was hungry, as I was too tired to cook dinner tonight. I dialed my brother's number and placed the phone at my ear. After the second ring, he picked up. "Hey, baby sis, how was your day?" "It was good. I'm a bit tired, but I'll manage," I replied. "Okay, make sure you don't overwork yourself though. By the way, I have some exciting news." "What is it?" I asked. "Well, it's been a year now since my mate and I have met each other and..." I asked, wondering where he was going with this. Mate is a touchy topic for me and Michael knows that, so it must be important if he brought it up. I've gotten to know his mate quite well, though we've never met. Such a sweet woman Genevieve is. "Well, we're getting married," he yelled. I started panicking internally as soon as he uttered those words. I knew where he was going with this, but I can't go back there. I can't face the place that destroyed me. Plus, I haven't told him about Keishawn being my mate. He just knows that I was rejected, and the reason I left was that I couldn't handle the pain. "Sis, you there?" I heard Michael's voice, bringing me back to reality. Yeah, I'm still here, I replied. Look, I know it's sudden, and I understand if you say no, but I was hoping that you would come to my wedding. It's not until next month, but as you know, Genevieve's mom passed away when she was young, and she was hoping you could help her plan the wedding. Plus it would give me a chance to meet my nephew in person. I sighed in defeat when he played the Genevieve's mom is dead card. He knew Genevieve and I had developed a bond over the period. I knew her, so if she asked me to be there, I wasn't gonna disappoint it. Plus it's my big bro's wedding day. I'm not gonna let those assholes stop me from being there for him. I just didn't know how I was gonna convince Alesandro to come or allow me to go. He knew about his father and my parents. I remembered the day I told him everything when he was 4 years old. Mommy, why doesn't Daddy want us? What do you mean, baby? Well, I had a dream last night, and I saw Daddy telling you that he doesn't want you, and you left your house and ran into the woods. I stared at Alesandro with shock written all over my face. He was talking about the night I got rejected, but I haven't mentioned my rejection since the day I met the Alpha and the Luna, so how did he know about it? Mommy, are you okay? You're doing that thing when you stare at the wall again. I'm sorry, honey. Mommy was just thinking. By the way, how did you know that Daddy doesn't want us? That was just a dream, I don't know. I guess I've always known. It was more like a feeling. I can't explain it. So do you know why he doesn't want us, Mommy? That day I explained everything that happened in my life in the best way I could, so a 4-year-old mind could understand. I made sure to tell Alesandro that even though his father rejected me, it doesn't mean he wouldn't accept him. I gave him the choice to meet his father, but every time I brought it up, he said no. I told my brother I would be at his wedding. He asked me to fly out next week, because I explained to him that I had a pack celebration to attend in a few days, plus I had to talk to my Alpha to gain permission to attend the wedding. We discussed travel arrangements and then I ended the call. I decided to take a bath and get something to eat, cause I'm gonna need the energy to tell Alesandro that we're going back to California. This is gonna be a long night. I said no. I could feel the entire house shaking beneath my feet, from the power of the alpha tone in Alessandro's voice. Young man, don't you dare raise your voice at me. His facial expression changed from anger to regret within seconds. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to shout at you, but you know what those people did to you? I can't allow you to go back there, and if you go I'll have to come with you, and I don't think I'll be able to control my anger around them, he said. I know, dear, but I'll be fine and it's not gonna be that long. We'll just be there for a month. Besides, I haven't seen my brother in 17 years. I can't go to his wedding. Plus you need to meet your uncle. You guys only communicate over the phone. It's not like we're going to live, okay? Besides, I'll have me bambino, my baby, by my side every step of the way. I'll be fine. I coaxed. And what about him? Alesandro asked with disgust in his voice. I knew he was referring to his father. What about him? I asked. Isn't he gonna be there? After all, it is his pack, and Uncle Michael is his beta. You guys are bound to run into each other at some point. You think you can handle that, and what if he finds out I'm his son? It's not exactly easy to hide. From the way you talk, it seems like I could pass as his twin. One look and he'll know I'm his. Not that I care, but I know he's gonna want answers. I thought about what Alessandro said, and he's right. He could pass as Keyshawn's twin. He was the spitting image of his father. The only thing he got from me was the skin color, and I know the moment I arrive, everyone else is gonna see it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, sweetheart. Don't worry about that. Just get your stuff together. We'll be leaving on Monday. I'll speak with the Alpha and the Luna after the party Saturday to get permission to leave. Okay, voglio bene la tua mamma. I love you, Mom, he said, kissing my forehead before making his way up the stairs. Ti amo anche il mio prezioso ragazzo. I love you too, my precious boy, I replied with a sigh. I had my work cut out for me. The next couple of days went by uneventful with the same daily routine. It was now Saturday evening, and Alessandro and I were getting ready for Luna's party. I had called earlier in the week requesting a meeting with them to ask permission to go to California for my brother's wedding. Now I'm on the couch in the living room waiting for Alessandro to come downstairs so we can leave. Alessandro, hurry up. We're gonna be late to the party. What's taking so long? I shouted. Mom, have you seen my coat? I can't find it anywhere. It's in the closet by the door. Now hurry and get downstairs so we can go. You know how I feel about punctuality. Alright, I'll be there in a minute. I got up to pull the car out of the garage. By the time I was out of the driveway, Alessandro was closing the front door and making his way to the car. The drive to the pack house was very short, as it was just a 10 minutes drive or 25 minutes by foot. When we got there, the shower had already started and the house was filled with people. I parked the car and went inside. Alesandro left to go talk to his friends, and I went to place our gifts down on the table. Little after Luna Gabriella came up to me, pulling me in a bone-crushing hug. I congratulated her on the pregnancy again, and we went around talking to people and enjoying the party. Now 10 p.m., the shower was over, and I was making my way to the Alpha's office for our meeting along with Alesandro. The Luna had gone to bed because she was complaining about her swollen feet and feeling tired. I knocked on the door to the Alpha's office and entered when I heard him say come in. He was sitting around his desk doing some paperwork. A genuine smile made its way on his face when he looked up and saw us, Rosalyn and Alesandro, come in to have a seat. "How are you doing?" "We're good," I replied. "So you requested a meeting with me? Is anything wrong? Are you guys having any issues with pack members or other supernatural, or is it the business?" "No, nothing like that, Alpha. Everything is fine. I just wanted to ask your permission to go to California on Monday. My brother is getting married in a month, and his mate asked if I could help her plan the wedding." "Oh, okay. I see. Well, you have my permission to go. However, you know you like a daughter to me, and I know your history with your old pack, so I want you to be careful, okay? And if anything at all goes wrong, you call me and I'll be there in an instant to bring you home, okay?" "Yes," I replied. "Good." He said, "Take care of your mother for me, okay, son?" he said, turning to Alesandro. "Yes, Uncle," Alesandro replied. After talking a bit more, Alesandro and I left the pack house and headed back home, so we could rest up and finish preparing for our trip. I sighed as I drove away from the pack house. California, here I come. Sunday went by quickly and uneventfully. Alesandro and I had finished our packing by midday. We also visited our friends at the pack house to say our goodbyes. We are currently at the airport waiting on our flight, which had been delayed by an hour. As I sat in the airport, my mind took me back to a time when I was younger. "Michael, dear, lunch is ready, and let's eat," my mother called. "Coming, Mom," Michael answered. I sat on the grass waiting for her to call me. I stayed there waiting, but she never called. I got up and went inside to find her and Michael eating. "Mom, where is my food?" She turned and stared at me with the meanest glare I have ever seen. Then she got up and smacked me across the face and yelled, "Stupid brats, don't get an ounce of food in my house. Go to your room, you worthless child." I ran up the stairs to my room with tearful eyes, trying to figure out what I did to make my mother angry. I drifted back to reality when I heard the flight attendant calling the passengers for our flight. Alesandro and I got up and headed to the gate to board the plane. The flight was 20 hours long. When we departed from the plane, I needed to use the bathroom, so Alesandro went to collect our bags. When I came back, I saw Alesandro standing in front of someone. It looked like they were having a conversation. I wondered who he could be talking to, since he doesn't know anyone in Cali. As I got closer, the person's features became clearer, and after a few more steps, so I could see who it was clearly. "Michael!" I yelled, flashing my hands in the air. Michael turned in my direction as well as Alesandro. They both smiled at me as I made my way over. When I was close enough, Michael pulled me into a bone-crushing bear hug. "Hey, baby, sis, I missed you so much," he said, kissing my head. "I missed you, too," I replied. When we pulled apart, Michael grabbed our bags and we made our way to the car. As we drove out, I asked Michael, "How has the pack been all these years since I've been gone?" "It's been good. We haven't had any rogue problems in over a year and our warriors are in top form, but all that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for our Alpha," he replied. My heart ached a little at the mention of my mate, but I quickly shook it off and continued asking questions. Then I asked the question I didn't think would be uttered from my mouth. "How's Mom and Dad?" Michael stiffened at the mention of our parents, then he sighed and relaxed. "Dad is good. He moved into the pack house a few months ago," he replied. "And Mom?" I asked, wondering how come he hasn't mentioned her. I saw him stiffen again this time. He gripped the steering wheel a bit tighter. He sighed again, even louder this time, then said, "Mom left." That was it. Nothing more. I wanted to ask him more about it, but I could tell it was difficult for him to talk about. So I let the issue rest and leaned against the window. Soon after, I faded into darkness. "Mom, wake up. We're here," I heard Alessandro's voice in my head. "I'm not going to work today, Alessandro, just take the bus to school," I replied, getting ready to go back to sleep. "Mom, we're not in Italy, we're in California, we're at the pack house, get up." I turned on my side, stretching my hands when they hit something above my head. I opened my eyes, realizing I wasn't in my bed but in a car. I quickly sat up to see Alesandro staring at me with annoyance. I was about to ask him what's wrong when everything came rushing back. "We're here?" I asked. "Yes." "Now would you please get out of the car so we can go inside?" Alesandro whined. I grabbed my bag and got out of the car. Looking around, the place hasn't changed much since I left. It was weird. I latched onto Alessandro's arm as we made our way into the pack house. It was late in the night, so no one was awake. When we reached the living room, Michael appeared and beckoned for us to follow him, so he could show us to our rooms. Alesandro asked if we could get a room with 2 beds, so he and I could share because he refused to leave me by myself. Michael chuckled and nodded, thinking it was Alesandro being protective of his mother, but I knew it went deeper than that. Before we left, Alesandro made me promise not to go anywhere too far without him while we were here, because he was sure someone would recognize me soon enough and try to make trouble. We arrived at our room and Michael bid us a good night before leaving to go to his mate, as it was late in the night and he missed her. I unpacked my things from my bag and did my nightly routine, which consisted of brushing my teeth and washing my face. I also changed into my pajamas. When I exited the bathroom, Alesandro was already in bed texting away on his phone. I walked over and kissed him on the cheek. "Good night, my bambino, my baby." "Good night, Mom," he said before placing his phone under the pillow and getting under the covers. I wrapped the sheet around me and laid on my back. The last thing I remember was closing my eyes before darkness engulfed me. I woke up to the sun peering through the window. I blinked a few times so my eyes could adjust to the lighting of the room. When I woke up, I realized Alesandro wasn't in the room. I focused my hearing to search for him and heard his voice downstairs. It sounded like he made a few friends. I got up and went to my closet. I took out gray shorts that reached mid-thigh and a gray tank top. I went to the bathroom and did my morning routine, then changed into the clothes I picked out. I opened the room door and headed downstairs to get some coffee. I am a very grumpy person without my morning coffee. As I reached the final steps of the stairs, I smelled the aroma of fresh coffee. I followed the scent into the kitchen to see Alesandro standing there with a mug of coffee in his hands. He stretched it out to me with a smile. "Buongiorno, Mama." "Good morning, Mom," he said as I took the mug from his hand. "Buongiorno, mi bambino," I replied. The kids he was talking to look at us, like we just grew 2 more heads. Alesandro laughed and said, "It's our good morning greeting and it's Italian, by the way," he said with a smirk. They mouthed an O before walking away. Alesandro placed a plate with egg, sausage, bacon, and pancakes in front of me. I pulled up a chair and sat down to have my breakfast. When I reached midway through my meal, an intoxicating scent filled my nose, a scent that brought my sleeping wolf awake within seconds, a scent that brought back memories and feelings I buried a long time ago, feelings only one person could give me, and that one person was Keyshawn Black. My ex-mate walked in only seconds after his scent invaded my nostrils. The moment I saw him, a wave of nostalgia and longing took over. I wanted to run to him, hug him, and tell him how much I missed him, but the feeling went as fast as it came. Suddenly a blonde came and attached herself to his arm, kissing his cheek. This made my wolf growl in my head. I, on the other hand, just looked the other way. As if he could sense my uneasiness, Alesandro stood in front of me in a defensive stance. At that moment my mate's head snapped in our direction. He looked at Alesandro, then his gaze fell on me. He stared at me for a bit as if trying to figure out where he's seen me before. As soon as the realization hit, he opened his mouth to say something but was interrupted by my brother and Genevieve's entrance. "OMG. Rose, I can't believe you are here," Genevieve screamed as she ran over, pulling me into a hug. "Can't breathe," I choked out. She let go of me and smiled at me sheepish while mouthing in, "I'm sorry." I nodded and just gave her a reassuring smile. She turned to Alesandro and hugged him before going back into the embrace of her mate. "Morning, sis. How'd you guys sleep?" Michael asked. "Good," I replied. "Did you guys have breakfast yet?" Genevieve asked. My mind suddenly went back to my meal, but I long had an appetite. I just nodded to him, then excused myself from the room. "You okay, Mom?" Alesandro asked me through our link. "I'm fine," I told him. I walked outside and into the woods to clear my head. I didn't realize how long I was walking or how far I'd gone until I heard shuffling behind in the woods. I turned my head and sniffed the air. It smelt like garbage and dirt. "Rogue, my wolf," Althea said in my head. Then an auburn-colored wolf walked out of the bushes, growling at me and showing its canines. I turned around to run, but another one walked up behind me. Then a third wolf came into view. "Fighting it is then," I thought to myself. The first wolf lunged at me. I sidestepped him and turned to see him charging at me again. I grabbed his neck and squeezed. The wolf whimpered in my hands before I snapped his neck. Did I mention I was a warrior in my pack and hella strong? The second wolf charged at me, trying to bite my hands and legs. I grabbed his nozzle and flipped him. He landed in a tree. The third one caught me off guard and crashed his body onto mine, making me fall to the ground. The wolf jumped on top of me trying to bite my neck, and I grabbed his mouth and used my strength to pull his mouth apart. I pulled until I ripped his mouth off. Then I sat there for a minute trying to catch my breath. I was exhausted. I got up to leave when the wolf I flipped in the tree grabbed my leg. I kicked him repeatedly until he let go. However, before I could make a move, a big brown wolf appeared and killed him. Then I heard Alesandro calling me, "Mom. Mom, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" He asked to check me for injuries. He was furious when he saw my foot. "He bit you." He was shaking with anger. I placed my hand on his shoulder and he immediately calmed down. He then turned to me, then picked me up and took me over. Then he frowned. "Mom, I told you not to go anywhere far without me, and see how you got hurt." "I'm fine," I said. "Besides, I don't need you to take care of me. Are you forgetting who trained you?" He smiled with admiration in his eyes, which then turned to worry. "I know you can take care of yourself, Mom, but still, I'm not letting you go anywhere without me again ever, and that's final." I sighed, knowing I was fighting a losing battle. It was pointless to argue with Alesandro when he was in protect mom at all cost mode. "I'm trying to figure out if you're the parent or Alesandro," my brother's voice said, bringing my attention to him. I had almost forgotten about him and that other wolf. Then I turned to him and asked, "Where's that wolf I saw earlier?" "He went to check the border for any more rogues. He'll meet us at the pack house," Michael replied. "Who is he, anyway? One of the warriors?" "No, it's the Alpha's younger brother, Jermaine. He got here this morning." I laid my head on Alessandra's shoulder, feeling sleepy. All of a sudden, I closed my eyes and let the darkness take over. I heard voices as I woke up and shifted in the soft bed. I tried getting up from the bed, but a wave of pain flashed through my leg. Then the events of this morning came rushing back. I examined my sore leg to find it bandaged. "It will heal in a day or two," I thought to myself. I hopped to the door and headed downstairs to find Alesandro, Michael, and an unknown man talking in the living room. Everyone looked up at me as I entered the room. "How are you feeling, Mom?" Alesandro asked, helping me into a chair. "I'm fine, sweetie," I replied as he sat back down beside Michael. "So, you're Michael's baby sister whom he can't stop talking about." "I'm Jermaine, black brother of the Alpha," he said, stretching his hands out to me. I shook his hand before saying, "Rosalyn Parker, sister of the Beta." At the same time, a voice I had forgotten spoke up. "So it was you." For a second I thought I was hallucinating. "Long time no see, Rosalyn." We all turned to the person who spoke. It was the only Alpha, Keyshawn Black, my ex-mate. It seemed as though Alesandro recognized him, because he got up in a defensive stance as he stood up in front of me, blocking me from his father. "And who are you?" Keyshawn asked with annoyance laced in his voice at Alessandro's growling. "Alpha, this is my sister and her son Alesandro. Remember I told you, they were coming for my wedding," Michael said. "Ah yes, I remember now," he said, still looking in my direction. He walked towards us and Alesandro growled again, but he wasn't fazed by it. He looked at Alesandro as if taking in his features. His eyes widened for a second before he turned to me, his face stoic and emotionless. "Rosalyn, who is the father of your son?" he asked. I was shocked that he picked up so fast, but then again Alesandro was the spitting image of him. I turned to look at him, but I didn't answer the question. Again, by this he was seething with anger. "Is he mine?" he asked with anger rolling off him in waves. By now everyone was staring at us in confusion. There were also more people in the living room than there were before, including Genevieve. "I said, is he mine?" Keyshawn shouted, making the housing boom from the power in his voice, but his alpha tone didn't work on me. I stood up and walked away, but he grabbed my hand and gripped it. I winced at the pain that went through my arm. Alesandro stood up to approach us, but I stopped him and yanked my arm away from Keyshawn's grip. I sighed, knowing he would have figured it out sooner or later. I turned to look at Alesandro to ask if he was okay with me telling him. He nodded. I then turned back to Keyshawn saying, 17 years ago on that night we had sex. After what happened next, I left. Then a few days later I found out I was pregnant. So to answer your question, yes, Alesandro is your son. As the words left my lips, I felt myself being pinned to the wall. I was being held by a very angry alpha. You took my son away from me for 17 years. He yelled. There was a pain in my back from when I hit the wall. You took this pack's future alpha for 17 years when he should have been training to take over the pack. You didn't even bother, at least tell me I have a son. I used some of my strength to push him off me, then I turned to him with a glare. First of all, he is my son, not yours. You rejected me, so that means you rejected him. You have no claim over him, and neither does your pack. The pack members who were present, which was about half the pack, all growled at my words. I ignored them and turned back to Keyshawn. And don't think for a second there's anything you can do about it all, mighty alpha, because you, better than anyone, know the law, I said, walking away. Keyshawn grabbed my hand again tighter than he previously did, which made me cry out in pain, but before he could say anything, he was up against the wall. What I saw in front of me made me gasp in shock.